I find that we are all, in our own way, deeply preoccupied with this question of death, not merely as a biological event, but as a profound, perhaps terrifying mystery. We look at it from a distance, but what I want to explore with you, if you are willing, is something else. I want to suggest that death is not just this unknown thing at the end, but that it holds an extraordinary key, that it is perhaps a great act of purgation. I use that word purgation deliberately, meaning to cleanse, to purify, to wipe the slate clean. We have to understand what it is that is being cleansed. And to do that, we must first look at our lives, at the very nature of what we call living. Haven't you noticed that our lives are built entirely on continuity? That which continues, which is repetitive, which moves in the same groove, day after day, year after year, is in a state of degeneration. I wonder if you can see this simple, profound truth. We think continuity is safety, but I see that that which has continuity is in fact in a state of decay. We move in a pattern. The patterns may vary, of course, according to the country you live in, the climate, the culture, the economic circumstances, but it is the same fundamental pattern, isn't it? This movement in a pre-established groove, whether it is one you inherited or one you chose, brings about this continuity, and that continuity, which we so desperately crave, is precisely the process of degeneration I am talking about, because it is the endless repetition of the known, the past. A mind that is caught in a pattern, however righteous or comfortable, is not a living mind, it is a mechanical mind, and that which is mechanical is already decaying. Whereas, and please see this, when there is an ending to that continuity, when the pattern breaks, only then is there a possibility for something entirely new to take place. This is simple, but we resist it with all our strength. We will need to go into this question of death very, very deeply together. You see, either you can grasp the significance of it instantly, in a flash, because you have already lived a life of extraordinary observation, because you have understood the whole movement of your own thought, how it creates fear, how it breeds anxiety, how it defines what you call love. And if you have seen that whole structure, then you can grasp in that same instant the whole significance of what death is. But I see that most of us do not do this kind of intense inner work, this observation, and so we will have to walk together very carefully to go into this. And I must be very clear with you. I'm not sitting here as your guru, so please do not be a follower. The moment you become a follower of anybody, you have stopped looking, you have stopped inquiring, and you have simply adopted a new pattern which is just as dead as the old one. The herd mentality, whether it's following a politician, a priest, or a philosopher, is still the path of degeneration because it is the path of continuity. So let us ask together, what is death? When I ask you that question, when you ask it of yourself, what happens? Immediately, thought provides a dozen answers, doesn't it? Thought, that complex chattering mechanism in your head, has many explanations. I don't want to go into all the miserable, comforting explanations that thought has spun over the centuries, but you must have noticed this in yourself. Every human being, when faced with this vast, unknown thing, has a prepackaged answer ready, an answer entirely according to his conditioning, according to his deepest desires, according to his hopes, and above all, according to the demands of his own comfort. We are terrified of not knowing, so we cling to an answer. The religious man has his answer: heaven, hell, reincarnation. The atheist has his oblivion, nothingness, the end. But please see that nothingness is still an answer. It is still a conclusion of thought designed to make the unknown known and therefore safe. Thought says there is an afterlife or there is no afterlife. It says the soul continues or the soul is an illusion. These are all the movements of the known, the responses of memory. So, can we, just for now, put all of that aside? Can you, as you are listening to me, suspend every single answer you have ever been given or that you have constructed for yourself without having an answer, without seeking a conclusion? Can we simply look at the question? Let's find out without answering it. Do you understand the difficulty in this? The answer will invariably be intellectual, verbal, put together by thought, which is the past. But we are examining something totally unknown, something that thought has never touched and can never touch. Death is a tremendous, mysterious thing, not an intellectual problem to be solved. I hope you can do this. I hope you can put aside your hopes and your fears, which are the parents of all your answers, and simply look. So we are asking, what is death? And we have put aside, I hope, all the comforting answers that we have inherited or invented. We are looking at the fact, and the obvious fact is that the organism dies. This body, this intricate mechanism, having been misused for decades through our contradictions, our conflicts, our ambitions, our constant grinding effort and self-indulgence, it simply wears itself out. It is a mechanism, and like any machine, it eventually breaks down through accident, disease, or old age. And with it, please listen to this bit carefully if you really want to go into this very deeply, with it dies the brain. This physical organ, the brain, which is the very seat of our consciousness as we know it, also comes to an end. Why is this so crucial? Because the brain is the residue of our entire life. It is the holder of memory. It is not some mystical, ethereal object, but a physical thing, a biological computer. It is the vast, complex storehouse of all your memories, your experiences, your accumulated knowledge, the pains and the pleasures of a lifetime, all stored chemically and electrically in the physical cells of the brain. And from that vast archive of memory, from that ground of experience and knowledge, thought arises. Thought is the response of this memory. When you're asked a question, your memory responds, and that response is thinking. So when the organism comes to an end, the brain, this holder of memory, also comes to an end, and therefore thought itself, as we know it, must come to an end. Are you following this? It is a simple, biological, material progression. We must be very clear that thought is a material process. We like to think it is something spiritual, something etheric or divine, but it is not. It is a physical, material process based entirely on memory. Memory is held in the cells of the brain, and the response of that memory to any challenge, to any question, is the movement we call thinking. And when the organism dies, that entire movement of thought dies with it. And here we come to the absolute center of the problem, the core of our fear. That very thought, that material process, has created the entire psychological structure of the me. I wonder if you can see this with utter clarity. The I, the self, the ego, the personality, this entity that you feel is so permanent and real, is a construction of thought. It is the me that wants this and desperately pushes away that. The me that is so profoundly fearful of being lonely. The me that is anxious about the future and riddled with guilt about the past. The me that despairs, that longs, that feels so painfully isolated from everyone else. This me is that movement of thought. It is not separate from it. Thought, which is itself a movement in time, has brought this me into being by stringing together thousands of memories, experiences, and fears, and has created a center, a psychological I, that believes it is the one doing the thinking, the one feeling the emotions, when in fact it is the thinking, it is the emotion. Look at how we build this me every single day in the modern world. We curate it on social media. We build a digital profile. We collect followers. We define ourselves by our careers, our possessions, our political beliefs, our opinions. This entire complex and contradictory edifice is the me constructed by thought, a me that demands recognition and above all demands continuity, demands permanence. So when the organism dies and thought, which is a material process, comes to an end, what happens to this me? This me that was so carefully put together by thought, this house built of memories, it also must come to an end. It collapses. Now, wait. We must go into this very slowly, very carefully, because this is precisely where the mind recoils in terror. When I see this, when I realize that my entire psychological being, my I, is just a bundle of memories and thoughts that will be completely extinguished with my brain, the immediate terrified response from within is that all? Do you follow this? Have you asked this of yourself? One has lived, one has struggled, one has acquired so much knowledge, one has suffered, loved, built a family, achieved, failed, and gone through such turmoil, and you are telling me it just ends. What is the value of it all? I wonder if you are asking yourself this right now in this moment. What is the significance of a human being who has lived, struggled, experienced, and lived such an often ugly, stupid, miserable, and sometimes wicked life, and then just end? The mind simply cannot bear this conclusion. It feels like an abyss. So, thought, which is incredibly cunning in its own self-preservation, immediately says, no, no, this cannot be the end. This is the great escape. This is the birth of illusion. This is where thought, faced with its own annihilation, invents the other world. It invents a heaven. It invents a future life. It invents the idea of an immortal soul or an Atman that continues. It creates a world where you will finally be happy, where you will find peace, where all your desires will be fulfilled, where you will be rewarded for your suffering, perhaps sitting next to God or being reunited with loved ones. All of that, all of it is still the movement of thought. Are you following this? Thought, facing the fact of its own ending, projects a future, a continuity, an afterlife, and believes in it. But that belief is just another thought. That heaven is built from the very same material as the me. It is memory, desire, and fear projected forward in time. You must see what thought is doing. You must see the profound danger of thought operating in a field where it simply does not belong. Thought has its right place, an absolutely necessary place. We need thought to function in the world of technology, to build a bridge, to learn a language, to design a computer, to communicate, to drive a car. In that field, it must be precise, logical, and strong. But when that same thought, which is a product of the known, tries to grasp the unknown like death, like love, like God, it can only create illusions. When thought invents and says that it is there, it is still the movement of thought, not reality. It is a projection of the me that is desperate not to end. So when thought, this cunning mechanism, realizes that the organism and the brain and therefore thought itself will come to an end, it invents a story of continuity, a heaven, a hell, a reincarnation, all to protect the me it has so carefully built. It does this because it is faced with the terrifying question. If this all just ends, what is the meaning of living? This is the question that haunts us, isn't it? You go through your whole life, you bear children, you experience pain, you struggle, you go to war, you hate, you love, you are in constant conflict, you go through such misery, and then suddenly it just ends. So one says, then what is the meaning of it all? And from that demand for meaning, thought provides an answer that guarantees its own survival beyond the grave. But please, just listen. We are always asking, with such desperation, what happens after death. I am asking, I am begging you to ask a question that is entirely different and infinitely more important. What is before death? Not what happens when you are dead, but what is happening now. What is this thing you call your life? Let us look at it honestly, just for a moment. What is your life? You go to school, then to college, then to university, you get a job, you get married, man and woman live together, there is sex, there is the bearing of children, and then he goes off to the office, and she goes off to the office, each one struggling to earn more money, each one fighting in their own way. And you go to that office, or that factory, or that hospital for the next 50 years. This is your life, this pattern of pain, anxiety, fleeting pleasure, and profound, simmering boredom. This is your life before death. You are living this mechanical, repetitive, often miserable existence, and from within this cage, you want to know what happens after it. Do you see the extraordinary illusion of this? We live in conflict, in fear, in psychological chaos, and we are desperate to know if this chaos will continue in another world. I want to weep for us, for what we do to ourselves. We are so concerned with what happens after the book is closed that we have never actually read a single page of it. So Let's come back to the fact, putting aside all the volumes that have been written about the afterlife, all based on thinking, all based on I believe, which is just the desire of thought. If you can literally actually do it, put all that aside, then what are you faced with? You are faced with the actual fact, the fact that you, the you who is the bundle of memories, the you who is put together by thought, comes to a complete end. Can you bear that? Can you look at that fact without a single movement of escape? All your anxieties, all your longings, all your cherished beliefs, all your accumulated knowledge, all your successes and failures. When you die, the brain which holds the thought that is all of that comes to an end. Now, if that is so, and it is the simple, observable fact, then we can begin to inquire into something which is entirely different. So, we are asking, when all this me ends, what is there? Do you understand my question? I wonder if you do. Look, can you, right now, as you are living with your vigor, your energy, with all the travail and chaos and beauty of life, as you are now, can you live now, meeting death now? Do you understand what I am talking about? Please, this is the entire point. I am living. I am full of energy, capacity. Though I may have pain and all the rest of it, I am living, and death means an ending to that living. Now, can I bring that ending into my living? Can I live with death all the time? This is not a morbid, depressing idea. It is the most vital and liberating action imaginable. What does it mean to live with death? It means this: I am attached to you, to my idea of you, to the pleasure you give me. I am attached to my house, to my reputation, to my beliefs. This attachment is the movement of the me, seeking permanence, seeking continuity. Now, can I end that attachment instantly? That ending is death. I am greedy. I am ambitious. I am envious. When I die, I cannot carry my greed or my ambition with me into the darkness. So, can I end that greed now? Can I end that envy now? Not I will end it tomorrow, not I will practice a method to end it, but to see the truth of it and let it go, to die to it in this very moment. This is what it means to live before death. It means you are living a life of extraordinary vigor, energy, capacity, observing, seeing the beauty of the world, the beauty of the earth, and also you are ending instantly everything that you acquire psychologically. You are living with death. And have you captured what this means? If you live this way, you are living in a timeless world. Do you see why? Time, as we psychologically know it, is the movement of the me that remembers the past, worries about the future, and strives to become something. But if you are in a state of constant ending, dying to each experience, each pleasure, each hurt as it happens, then the me is not accumulating. The me is not building a past from which to project a future. Therefore, the me as a center of time ceases to be. There is then a movement of constant newness, not a fixed place you are stuck in. So I ask you, can you do this? Or will you just listen to these words and say, well, That is another interesting idea, another concept. This is not a concept. This is an invitation to a total transformation of your life. When you invite death in this way, which means the ending of everything that you psychologically hold, dying to it each day, each minute, then you will find no, not you will find, because the you is the very thing that is gone. The you, the center, the accumulator, will be absent. And in that absence, there is a state, a timeless dimension in which the movement as we know it as time is not this entire action is the very depth of meditation. It is the emptying of the content of your consciousness. Your consciousness is its content, your beliefs, your fears, your anxieties, your me. When that content is emptied, not through effort but through this observation and ending, then time comes to an end. And that is death, not 50 years later, but now. If you found value in this exploration, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more inquiries into the nature of our lives.